funny because it's talking season when everybody in the media is making tiers of things and fans are following suit and saying you're not even in the same tier that the school that you're arguing against. Because last night's show went a little off the hinges. Now, yes, we clipped some things, obviously posted our thoughts on the university out in Texas, the Texas A&M Aggies, and they were not happy with me, nor did I think that they would be happy with me, mainly due to the fact because I said, listen, the things that you do, the culture that you have sucks. Because it does. It's weird. It's cult-like in nature. That's why everybody calls it the cult. They're mad at me, but a very viral debate took hold today, which starts to beg the question, and an age-old thing that you and I, and this discussion that you and I have a lot of times on these shows, where is LSU in the tier, at least going into the 2024 season? Where are they? Are they in a tier 1, a tier 2, a tier 3, a tier 4? That's how you know when we have to start talking about this again, what season we're in. We're in talking season, and it's going to be fun. I'm going to tell you, I have seen a lot of people talking about Bama remaining in tier 1 of the SEC. I don't agree with that at all. So we'll talk about that here tonight. Where do I see LSU? I had a lot of people at Texas A&M trying to beg the question that we're in the same tier with them, but I just go and look at their record, and I don't even have to look at their record very, very vastly to know that since they entered the SEC in 2012, well, they only have one 10-win season. It was actually that year with Johnny Manziel and the boys. LSU has 2 10-win seasons in back-to-back years. So I don't know why they continue to try to make it seem as if that they're on the same playing field, because they're not. Guys, since 2000, actually, okay, we can go deeper than that. Since 1998, Texas A&M only has 2 10-plus win seasons in football. They're not a program that we look at and say is anything football related. We give A&M too much credit, and I think people are still giving Bama credit, even though they lost so much along both lines of scrimmage, some key assets, some key players. Now that Nick Saban has retired, people still thinking that they're in a tier 1. Says whom? They got more question marks than anybody in the country. Guys, they lost 84% of their production either going to the NFL or the other portions of that hitting the transfer portal. Yeah, I do think that there are more question marks now about Alabama than there's been in the last 18 years since Nick Saban has taken over. So we'll talk on that here tonight. Did get the A&M fans in their feelings today. They're mad at me. Who is this guy? Well, we're just a guy with close to 30,000 followers on Twitter. That's who we are. And I always find that a little bit amusing too. Who are you? Dude, you have 7 followers. Who are we? Who are you? So we'll talk about that. The SEC announces their TV revenue. We'll touch on that as well. The LSU softball ladies also with a little bit of lead, or they did have a lead right before we came on if they, for whatever reason, lost it. So we tee it up in college softball with the Lady Tigers tonight. So hopefully Beth Tarina and her squad can have a really good year. I know that there seems to be a little pressure on Beth. With great recruiting comes great responsibility, man. So hopefully that the Lady Tigers have a really good year. Also, the other Lady Tigers, the women's basketball team, will play 17-6, the Vanderbilt Commodores, Actually, a team that beat Mississippi State and Auburn, who Kim alluded to, who LSU could not beat this year. So we'll preview it at the end of the show, and we'll field your questions as we do every Tuesday and Thursday. Hashtag Ask Blake. So thoughts, questions, concerns, you can fire them inside the Rudy Crew chat. But Adam, right out of the gate, sends a Canadian $6.90 or $6.99 in the super chat. Thank you so much, Adam. Our man always looking out for us. Rob Boudreaux says, good evening to you, good sir. Paul Sub Martin is in the building. He says, screw that talking season. It's now baseball and softball season. That's true. That is true. It's a good point, Paul Sub. A really, really good point. Gary Anderson says, let's go, representing Houston, Texas via Opelousas, Louisiana. Well, good to have you in here, Gary. Good to have you in here. John Sibley Butler, Aggies have had a tough time winning for a long time. A very long time. Trent on Facebook says, just call them the 39ers from now on. What did I miss, Trent? I feel like I missed something here that maybe I shouldn't have missed, but clearly I did miss something. The 39ers. Josh Rogers, what's up, bud? Our local Ohio State fan sends us some stars via Facebook. Thank you so much, Josh, for doing that. And he says, Buckeyes versus LSU for the national championship next season. Well, Josh, I got to tell you, Ohio State, and this is to LSU fans too, Ohio State did some really good things in the portal. Obviously, the headliners by Will Howard, the headliner with Caleb Downs, the headliner with Quinshon Judkins. I think they're going to be really good. I already on our national show, Ruffino and Joe show, thought and said a very way too early prediction. I think that they can win the Big Ten. I think they do win the Big Ten. Let's see what happens with Bill O'Brien, though. Let's see what happens with Bill O'Brien. I am higher on old Billy than most. Mainly because I'm trying to troll some Alabama fans, but LSU's got a little way to go. LSU's got some question marks that they got to field, and you know I've gotten a lot of pushback. Got a lot of pushback last night, as an example, as to what I think about the Tigers football team and where I have my areas of concern. Look, if anybody is telling you, okay, that they don't have concerns on defense, and maybe we can change our vocabulary there. Maybe it's not a concern as much as it is a worry and something that we need to see progress. But I do believe personally that if you hear of anybody saying that they don't have worries in the interior of the defensive line, I got to be honest with you. I really question either the take or are they just being a homer, like legitimately. And because there's no way you can look at it right now and say you have no idea what you're going to get from Sean Washington and Jacoby and Guillory. Brian Kelly is saying that he's got to move defensive ends into the interior so that they can get reps, and hopefully you can find something there. Guys, that is a problem. Like, that is a problem. Whether you like it, love it, or hate it, it is a problem. So LSU's got question marks on defense. I will continue to say, until I'm blue in the face, have no worries with them offensively. None. Zero. Zilch. Nada. So, yeah. Trent says, Texas A&M 1939 national champions. They are the 39ers. I feel you on that. Kenny says 1939 Aggies. Let that sink in, ice cream men. Yeah, I mean, look, everybody is coming out with their different tiers of the SEC. We'll even do ours, or what I think the tier of the SEC is tonight. How people have Bama at 1 is so mind-boggling to me. Well, Blake, they're in the playoffs. It's not created equally. Like, I'm going to have Texas in my tier 1. A lot of you might push back on that, but I think obviously we know that they made the playoffs this past year. Guys, I think they're making the playoffs again this year. Like, I do think that they'll make the playoffs again this year. So they're going to have – I think they'll be 10-2, and they'll be on the fringe. on some borderline things, and I think they're going to make the playoff. People having Alabama in tier one with Saban retiring, everybody that hit the portal. I mean, I can't get behind that. I just can't get behind that. Ty Boudreaux says Ryan Day will screw it up. We'll see. Josh says maybe, but if he knows what's good for his job in Columbus, he won't. Yeah, I mean, look, man, I think there needs to be a little patience with Ryan Day. If I'm a fan of Ohio State, I'm not, and even as just a fan of college football, I'm not out on Ryan Day. Not like a lot of people are. Dane Bergeron, Snake, I think is what he's called, says the D-line and DBs worry me. I feel you. I do feel you. Adam says, hey, Blake, congratulate Texas A&M on their national championship in the Orange Bowl versus North Carolina with the opt-outs. Very true. Very true. That was their last significant win in football. Is, again, I mean, maybe I guess you could say Alabama a couple of years ago when Alabama played for a national title. But come on, man. Come on. Come on. Brandon Reed says Michigan winning the national championship puts more pressure on Ryan Day. I agree with that, but see, here's the problem that I have with that personally. Okay, the issue that I have with that is look how long it took Harbaugh to get it. I mean, guys, Harbaugh went through. It was there for a while before he started making the playoffs. He was there for a while before he won one. So. Sometimes, man, you just gotta you don't want to, right? Like, and I know that you don't want to. Sometimes you gotta have patience, guys. I tell you this all the time. Like, as an example, for me, for like LSU, guys, when LSU is winning and winning big, our numbers go through the roof. And a lot of advertisers, okay, YouTube, Facebook, all these platforms, man, they pay per the view. So, yes, I want them to be successful more than anybody, but I just can't I can't find like some reasoning. Like, you can be mad and upset on things. I'm not telling you that. I do that all the time. But there's got to be some rationale of critiquing and saying, like, guys, we had people this year come into our live streams during a postgame show saying fire Brian Kelly. Like, are you that dumb? Excuse me. Are you that dumb? It's one of the dumber. It just shows like who thinks about and has their fandom on their emotional sleeve. I don't get it. I don't get it. Sherry Berry says, good evening, AYS. Good evening, Sherry Berry. Good evening to you. Welcome into the show. LA Chris says, I have a little concerns with our offense. Took us a last-minute drive to beat Wisconsin and unranked Wisconsin without 5 of their starters on offense. Chris, I can see where you're there, but they still scored 35 points. They still completed that drive, right? I mean, like, and technically you were out with 3 of your starters. First time starting for Garrett Nussmeier. You have an entire offseason where that offensive line is going to be bigger, faster, stronger. I just don't have worries. And Chris, scoring 35 points isn't a worry for me. Look, Wisconsin's a top 30 defensive team. There's a difference. Like, if LSU is a top 30 offensive team, there's no reason to worry about that or worry about them. None. I mean, really and truthfully, because if you guys, I'll tell you this, if you get into the top 50 defensively, you're going to win another 10 games. You could win 10 games in the regular season, the way that your schedule lines up. You have to have complementary football. If you don't have complementary football, you know what this season has done? Let me tell you before we get rolling, you know what this season did to us? This season broke the normal mentality of how we think football games should go. I really believe that. Like, guys, have you forgotten what it's like to get defensive stops? And it's much worse than it was in 20. Hell, we were there for every step of the way of it. On every single show, on every single post game. We were there for all of it. And you know what constantly would come up every single time? Man, we got to score on every possession. It's the same way here, just magnified and multiplied by 100%. Guys, you had 16 possessions against Wisconsin because you were actually able to get stops. You're going to do that again. You're going to have to do it again. And if you're not better, guys, if you're not better defensively, you might win 8 games. You think I'm crazy? You might win 8 games in the regular season. You can't allow Jayden Daniels to bail you out again. Garrett's going to throw an interception as a young quarterback late in the game that he's not supposed to make. Which, by the way, did y'all see him today? LSU posted a video of Garrett Nussmeier. The kid's just maturing, man. Like, mentally, physically, I don't know about spiritually, but you could just tell. Like, you can even just tell by looking at him, like, physically. I mean, and there's never – look, let me say this before we get rolling, too. Because I took a lot of heat behind saying Garrett Nussmeier wasn't ready the last 2 years. Well, I didn't even say last year I thought he was. Really all offseason, my thought was if Garrett played, you'd be fine. And I still think you would have been fine. But his first 2 years here, man, he wasn't ready. It took Joe Sloan developing him throughout the season in 22 to where when you saw him against Georgia, he went off. Took a lot of heat on that one too. See, Blake, we told you. And then Jayden just wins the Heisman. That's all Jayden does. I know a lot of you remember the hate that we took on Jayden Daniels. There's nobody like him in football. Or college football, I should have said. Nobody. None. Hell, there might not be a lot of people like him in the NFL. I think, guys, I'll be real with you. I think he could be better than Lamar Jackson. I think he is better than Lamar Jackson. Because he's a better thrower of the football. He's just a naturally gifted, better thrower. And I don't think Lamar is. I'm just going to be real with you. I don't think Lamar is a better quarterback. Like Jayden's 5 years in the league, barring injury, knock on wood. I think Jayden Daniels is gonna be better than Lamar, and I think Lamar is an MVP. Will probably win the MVP this year. I think Jayden Daniels is going to be better than him. I really do believe that. Always, to some extent, it's not fair for me to say I always thought he would, but definitely knew that he had the capability. And we got the film on these shows to back that up. Okay. We got lots and lots to discuss. Paul says, must say I was not on board with you on Jayden Daniels. I was showing wrong. Look, man, I have, and Paul, I appreciate the comment. I have wrong takes all the time. I have no problem saying when I'm wrong. Hell, Monday's show literally came out and said, I don't know, was it Tuesday's show? Yeah, it was Tuesday's show. Said, hey, man, I was wrong on something. We spent like 5 minutes on it. Just, and I was. It is what it is, man. You're going to be wrong on things. If you talk enough sports, you're going to be wrong on something. One thing, and I'll give myself a little bit of a pat on the back on this one. One thing we've been pretty good on this show has been quarterback play. None more than Miles Brennan. None. Boy, some of you are going to have to go back in the archives to listen to our conversations and thoughts about Miles Brennan. Boy, y'all hated me. All right. Let's get rolling. Everybody do us a favor by hitting the like and share to all those social media groups, share to all of those social media pages. If you're watching us, listening to us on YouTube, like, subscribe, and notification bell. wherever you listen to podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe. So about our good friends at BetOnline.ag, our good friend Tyler Alexander over at LPT Realty. Where realistically is LSU in this pecking order of the SEC? We talk about that next. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man, he's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just call 955-0008. Y'all call Tyler, he'll shoot you straight.
We're back. Danny Girl, yes, says LSU softball's up 4-0 in bottom of 4. LSU has bases loaded, 1 out. Thank you, Danny Girl. And if I'm not mistaken, Pleasant just hit a grand slam, so it's going to be 8-0. LSU lady softball Tigers versus Nichols. Good for them. Big time. Very much big time. You know, I also do think it's funny because we were talking a little bit about Texas A&M. I also think it's funny that we always got the straggling Notre Dame fans that come into the mentions. I'm not spending any time on them tonight, but we will spend some time on the SEC. Look, you know it's talking season, especially when the media and fans are talking about tier groups in the conference that your favorite team is in, LSU. And I've seen it a lot this week. I saw it even starting the beginning of Monday and Sunday, these tier groups of where the new SEC without Nick Saban and with Texas and Oklahoma coming in, where everybody falls in line on tiers. Now, I'm not a graphic guy. A lot of times during the football season, we'll bring up graphics for stats and stuff like that. I'm not going to bore you with a graphic about where I have tiers, where I have this team and that team. Not going to do that. We're just going to talk about it. I do think that there are a lot of discussions and debates about the SEC, especially where LSU falls in this, and where I think LSU is going to be at the end of this year and can be at the end of this year. You know, I look at a team like LSU as an example and say to myself, so if Brian Kelly, who's had now 6 years, or is it, 6 years of 10-plus win seasons, if he wins another or has another year and then another year at LSU where he gets 10 wins, I don't know how you can keep LSU out of that tier 1 group. Now, you could if they don't make the playoff this year in a 12-team format. We will have those discussions, I'm sure, a year ago or a year from now on where they fall. But I'm going to tell you, if you get to 10 wins, that's the magic number. 10 wins. Get to 10 wins in the regular season, which you have not done yet under Brian Kelly, even though you do have 2 10-win seasons, obviously needing both bowl games to get there. Then that magic number is 10. Then I think you will be into that tier 1. I think of all teams in the SEC right now, the most borderline team of being back in there where they normally have been, where they normally belong, is LSU. Now, I do think that it's fair to say that they're knocking on the door of being there with Georgia, and I'm going to say a team that you're not going to agree with me on, that being Texas. Now, I'm going to preview a little bit about Texas, okay, and foreshadow this, because obviously they made the playoffs this year. Didn't win, didn't get to a national title. That's fine. Some people will say it's not, but I still think it's fine for a team coming into the league. Guys, I think they're there because I think they're going to get to the playoffs again. Got a lot of guys returning, have done very well in recruiting, have done really well in the transfer portal. Even though I might not like Sark, I think he's getting them and gotten them into a direction. There's a strong possibility that they're a playoff team every year. Now, I don't think that they have the undefeated run, okay, through parts of their season. If Quinn Ewers were to go down and they got to go to another backup quarterback, they can't do that in the SEC. They just can't. But I do put them also on that borderline of being a little bit above into that tier one. I think there's only one team right now that you can say is in a tier one without question in the SEC that runs everything. That's Georgia. Now, I'm going to have 6 teams in my tier two. If I had to put a tier together, I put tier one, Georgia. Because I have to make the argument and would have to make the argument for every other team, and I would have to try to compare them to Georgia. There is nobody like Georgia right now, guys. Nobody. If they are the creme de la creme, it is Georgia, and I'm going to be honest, it's everybody else. In a tier two, even though I do have LSU, Texas, and Bama in there, okay, and borderline being, a lot of people will question, well, Blake, how can you not have Bama in there with Georgia? It's simple. The short man's not there anymore. Saban isn't there anymore. And a lot of the talent that he had amassed in Tuscaloosa has hit the portal. And Kalen DeBoer is coming from the Northwest to the deep South, and having to compete here. Alabama is losing 84% production. I think they fall in line with LSU, Texas, a team that a lot of you are going to scratch your heads on when I say this. Ole Miss. Is Missouri starting to get there? And Oklahoma. Those are your tier two teams. Those are the teams that you're rivaling against right now if you're LSU. But to have like a team like Alabama or any other team for that matter to be there with Georgia, I think is asinine. I think is completely asinine. You know, it's funny too. Let's talk on Bama. I don't know what people are expecting from Kalen DeBoer year one. I think year one may be could be his best year because of the talent that Nick did amass, that he did get, and that some of it that did stay around. They still got really good talent, does Alabama. Don't know what they do at quarterback. Still think they got a lot of talented dudes in that room. And in one, quite honestly, and Dylan Lonergan, who I think that could really play, Alex or Austin Mack being a guy that transfers in, they got a lot of talent along both lines of scrimmage, secondary. They're going to be a team that you have to watch out for. The reason I put Alabama down is mainly due to the fact, guys, Alabama is on more equal footing with everybody else in the conference than they've been in the last 2 decades. Since Saban got there. Like, for example, I think there's more pressure and more heat for Kalen DeBoer taking his Alabama team to Baton Rouge than there's been in 2 decades. Now, there was a lot of times where Nick and LSU had a lot of big-time battles. It was the premier game in college football for a long time. To some extent, you could say even in 22, it was a premier game in college football. But what I am not going to do is put them on a level that they've been for the last 2 decades, and quite honestly, has led the last 2 decades with everything that they have going on, with all of the exits that they have out of the door from the portal. I do think that of all the teams that I would have in my tier 2, that being LSU, Bama, Ole Miss, Missouri, Texas, Oklahoma, I do think that LSU is on the brink of being closer to Georgia than any one of those 4 teams. Now, you could say Ole Miss. Ole Miss is not recruiting high school-wise like they need to. Is it sustainable for them to continue to do what they just did next year? I don't know if it is. Now, Florida State did it, okay, and they did it at a really good level, and they have hit the portal, but that's different. 1,000% different. They're not having to face a schedule in the SEC like Ole Miss does. There is only one team in that tier 2 that can start rivaling Georgia with the way that they're recruiting. That is LSU. So getting to that magic number of 10 wins in the regular season is more crucial than it's ever been. Because if you get to that 10th win in the regular season, you're making the playoff. And any team in the SEC that has 10 wins in the regular season, they will make the playoff. They're not going to leave them out. Guys, it's just not going to happen. Did have a lot of mad Texas A&M fans today, too. Don't know if you saw our mini viral clip that hit social medias. I think it's like at 60, 70,000 views on Twitter. I don't know. But I had a lot of A&M fans today telling me that they are in the same tier as LSU. They're about the same program as LSU. I said this last night. When everybody now is talking about tiers and where teams fall and who's where, guys, Texas A&M is nowhere close to LSU. They are more in the bottom feeders with historically your Kentuckys and Auburns right now and South Carolinas. Hell, you can even somewhat make the argument, guys, that they're more in a tier with Florida than they are with LSU. And I have Florida in my tier 4. Guys, this is why I never freak out about A&M fans when it comes to them thinking that they think that they're on the pedestal that it's like, you always have that one friend who always tries to act like he's with, hanging out with the Joneses, being one of the Joneses, trying to buy the nice watches. He might have money, but nobody ever really likes him. It's crazy because A&M entered the conference in 2012, and they've only had one 10-win season since that time. That was the first year they got here with the Johnny Manziel Heisman Trophy run. Guys, since 1998, they've only had 2 10-win seasons as a program. So let me put this in a little bit of context for A&M fans when they say that they're on the same tier football-wise with LSU. Brian Kelly has been a head coach at LSU for 2 years and has the same amount of 10-win seasons than you do as a program since 1998. Since Bill Clinton was in office and had all of those things go down with him with Monica Lewinsky. Guys, since Monica Lewinsky was going to a dry cleaner to cover things up, you've only had 2 10-win seasons. I don't know if they think they're better than they are, but I'm never going to fear A&M. Guys, A&M would have to go on a 2 3-year run where they're making the playoff, where they have multiple 10-win seasons, for me to ever fear Texas A&M. They do good things in recruiting, but they always fumble the bag. This isn't the first time they fumbled the bag. Are you 1,000% sure that Mike Elko goes into Aggie land and gets them to where they want to go? It would be unprecedented. Because, guys, again, it's just not likely for them to have massive amounts of success. Comical. Very comical. Brandon says if Elko goes 7-5 or 8-4 his first couple of seasons, Aggie fans will be ready to panic. They should be panicking now. But they're not going to because they have a new coaching staff and new administration. David says, I wouldn't put Ole Miss and Missouri in tier 2 after having one good year and Missouri losing their best coaches. David, I will concede this with you. Missouri was a question mark for me to put in there. Okay. But I don't mind you putting them in like a tier 3. I just think that they're going to continue to have sustained success of 9 and 10 win seasons. So I put them there, foreshadowing with them a little bit. I disagree with you on Ole Miss. Here's why I disagree with you on Ole Miss. And let's talk on them. Guys, 2 of the last 3 years, they have 10-plus win seasons. If you want to go the last 3 years, guys, actually, they have a better record than you do. So I look at, and hell, technically you could go 4 years. The last 4 years, they have better records than you. Have a better record than you. Ole Miss having back to or 2 of their last 3 years having 10 wins, I got to put them there. David, to be honest with you, have to put them there because they're getting to a New Year's Six Bowl. They're 2 New Year's Six Bowls in 3 years. Look, they're not recruiting at the level that they need to, and I will concede that. Don't know if it's sustainable, but Lane Kiffin trolls a lot. He trolls a lot. But even though he trolls a lot, doesn't stop the fact that he's got that place rolling. And I'm going to be real with you, David. I think they're going to make the playoff this year. I 100% believe they're going to make the playoff. So they don't have an Alabama on their schedule. They got Georgia. They got LSU. But they got Georgia at home. They got LSU on the road. They can win every other game that they play. And I think that they do win every other game that they play. They do not have a tough schedule. So even if they lose, okay, and some people believe that they can beat LSU in Baton Rouge, they're there. They are there. They're going to be a really good football team. So if Lane Kiffin has 3 10-win seasons in the last 4 years, guys, I got to start asking the question because they'll make a playoff if they get to 10 wins in the regular season. You got to start asking the question, is Ole Miss there? And if Lane's going to be there, they're going to continue to have success. I do think Lane, though, and I could be wrong on this, this is what I think is going to go down. Okay? I think that Ole Miss is going to have another successful year, and Napier is going to be fired, and Florida's going to hire Lane Kiffin. I just, like those feelings you get, like that you just know something's going to happen. I just feel like Napier is going to get fired, and Lane Kiffin's going to be the next head coach in Gainesville. And then I want to tell you, look, Lane at Florida might be the scariest thing that could happen. Because if he gets that place rolled, if somebody gets, look, Florida, I have in my tier 4. You can't have 2 seasons back-to-back where you're not getting the bowl games. You can't have a season where, even though, it's tough, Napier had a top 5 pick at quarterback, and they lost to Vandy on the road. Vandy. Of any team that's on this list that's not in tier 2 or tier 1, the team that would scare me the most post Billy Napier is Florida. Because they're the team, because I don't think Arkansas can go from tier 4 to tier 1. Vandy can't go from tier 4 to tier 1. Hell, I don't even think Mississippi State can go from tier 4 to tier 1. And those are the teams that I have in my bottom tier of the SEC. But of all of those teams, and Florida is in my tier 4, the only team in that can go from 4 to 1 is Florida. Because of the resources that they have, the recruiting base that they have, the alumni that they have. You've seen that they'll spend money. I mean, even in other sports, they'll spend money. Look what they did with their new baseball stadium. They will spend the money. But all this comes down to who is going to be the head guy leading them. And the only person that Florida needs to call when they fire Billy Napier is Lane Kiffin. And ask Lane, what do they have to do to get him there? And don't take no for an answer. We saw Lane on the doorsteps of leaving Ole Miss for Auburn. What will he do for a job like Florida? Now, he's got to play Kirby every year. Wouldn't have to do that at Ole Miss. And it's Ole Miss right now a better job than Florida. I don't think that it is. But they're spending money and they're doing the right things. So yeah. Let's see. Lady Tigers win the opener in 5 against Nichols. They won 8-0. Strong start. Yeah. Why was it called off in 5? Why did they call it in 5? Danny says, I agree with you, Blake. Ole Miss has a favorable schedule and has one of the easiest paths to playoffs. So much. I think they're going to get there. Paul Sub says, Ole Miss's schedule can also hurt them big. 10-2 with losses to LSU and Georgia, and best win to an 8-4 Oklahoma or Kentucky. That could bite them on positioning. Paul Sub, let me push back on you on one thing. Who was Missouri's big-time wins? And they would have been in the playoff this year. Missouri's biggest win, Tennessee? Maybe Kansas State, maybe. But Mizzou would have been in the playoff. So, ain't often I disagree with Paul Sub. Softball run rule. I didn't know softball run rule was 8. How about that? I learned, y'all just taught me something new. Y'all just taught me something new on that. Danny Girl says, unpopular take. I see Ole Miss in playoff before LSU in 24 because of the ease of their schedule and because we have a lot of unanswered questions right now, especially on defense. I don't think that's unfair. I mean, I think you could get, if you got 4 teams into the playoff, which I think you're going to get 4, Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, that would leave out Bama, would leave out Mizzou, Oklahoma, Tennessee, A&M, Kentucky, Auburn, South Carolina, and all the other ones. I don't think you get in 5. Maybe you do get in 5. Who knows? But maybe. Speaking on the SEC, though, did y'all see this? Let me pull this up because I think we need to get on or see something. Uh-oh. Hold on. Let me pull this up. Actually, you know what? Let me do this. Did y'all see that the SEC announced their TV revenue and that it's going to be close to $1 billion next year? We'll talk on that in the SEC's announcement. I do need to get to a quick break. Let me pay some bills very quickly. Don't go anywhere. We're going to come right back. We're going to finish it out, take some more of your thoughts, questions, concerns. We'll do that as well. But let me get to a quick break. We're back in just a minute because LSU is about to get paid. Guys, let me tell you about our good friends over at Avid Inspection Specialist. Are you planning on purchasing a home or business? Then you need it inspected. AIS has you covered. Before you make that purchase, get it inspected and find the issues before you sign on that dotted line and before they become your problem. AIS also has you covered if you just recently purchased a home with their 11th month new home warranty inspections. Before the builder says it's your problem and that new home warranty expires, get it inspected and let the builder pay for it. Do you need mold inspections, asbestos inspections, lead inspections, drone inspections? They do it all. Give them a call today at 225-717-5591. That's 225-717-5591, or go over to the website, avidspecialist.com. That's avidspecialist.com, where peace of mind happens. LHI number 11331. Because you might know my good friend Carol Falls and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with the great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol Falls has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirements. By the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Whether you've been injured in an accident, you're preparing for a future with your estate planning, you're getting ready to close in on a real estate deal, or you're about to welcome a new addition through adoption into your family, or you're facing criminal charges, you need very experienced attorneys, and that is what the Drake Williams Law Firm will be able to do for you in navigating the legal system. The door to their cozy office in historic downtown Ponchatoula has been open since 1981. They have helped thousands and thousands of Louisiana families and individuals win cases, close on real estate deals, and regain that peace of mind. Their lawyers over at the Drake Williams Law Firm, Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vicnair, are very determined, compassionate, and dedicated to their craft. It's the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. Tell them your good friend Blake Ruffino at AYS sent you on by. In the chat, who do you guys believe is going to win the Super Bowl? We're actually going to put the poll up inside. Hold on. Guys, can we put a poll up on YouTube? Actually, hold on. No, I can do this. I want to know who everybody believes. Who do you have winning Super Bowl? Kansas City, San Fran. Okay. Bad podcasting by me. Guys, I probably should let y'all do it. We're going to answer that question at the end of the show here. LSU Lady Tigers do tip it off at 8:00, so we'll get to that too. And a little bit of preview. They face Vandy 7-6. But we got to talk about this. So today it was announced that LSU is going to be a part of this, but the SEC announces $741 million in total revenue was divided among its 14 universities for the 2022-2023 fiscal year ending August 31st of 2023. The distribution includes including bowl revenue retained by schools for bowl expenses averaged $51.3 million per school. So yeah, I know that LSU said that they were in a $2 or $4 million deficit from an athletic standpoint. Guys, that's bullshit. That's BS. Gonna make closer to maybe even 55, 60 next year in the $1 billion contract that ESPN has with Texas and Oklahoma coming in, at least for next year's or this year's TV revenue. They won't get it next year. You get what I'm saying, for next year's TV revenue contract. Guys, this is what I was talking about the other day when I said to myself, all right, we've talked a lot about Tennessee not going to go, and Nico Iamaleava not going down that rabbit hole again, I promise. It is so crazy to me, so massively insane that we're at a place in college athletics where LSU is being paid $50 million, majority, if not all of that, coming from football. I think, guys, it's like $49 million for football, okay, for every school. Okay? All of that being said, the players, they make shit of it. I would tell. I'm just going to tell you. It's. We ask about NIL. You know, I know that Bayou Traditions is a collective that we have. I highly suggest that you give to it to help LSU continue to fight in NIL. I'm not a spokesman for Bayou Traditions. Don't claim to be one. All right? But we have to give. It's just so insane to me that LSU's getting paid $51 million of that, and we're not doing anything with that TV revenue for the players. Don't give me the scholarship. Don't give me any of that. $50 million. Who they think they kidnapped? Chelsea Clinton? $20 million in 20s, $10 million in 10s. You want any fives with that? I mean, why are players not making TV revenue money? It is absolutely absurd to me. Guys, room and board, tuition, all of that stuff that goes for every athlete at LSU does not cost LSU $50 million. It can't. There's no mathematical way that is possible. No, there's no way. What are they doing with seating? Now, I know that LSU has to maintain. All I'm saying is 100,000 people in 8 games. If every ticket in there was $100, then what? It costs a lot of money to make venues run. Not that much. Not $800 million gross worth. Get out of here, man. Get out of here with that. $3 million in deficit. CPAs exist for a reason. They exist for a reason, guys. I will never in a million years be convinced LSU is broke. There's no way. It's literally no way. Now, if they use that money and go and, do things that I know that they're going to do, they're going to do things for the PMAC. They're going to do things with a new baseball stadium. They're already renovating stuff for LSU football ops. I mean, there's just no way. LA Chris says Money Talks is my favorite movie. That's actually from Rush Hour, but Money Talks is one of my favorite ones too. 20 million in 20s, 10 million in 10s. You want any fives with that? John Sibley Butler says graduate students helps bring 500 million and there's no NIL for them. Graduate students help bring 500 million and there's no NIL for them. They're also not making money for the university. Not like that. John, them paying a tuition for graduate school is one thing. If they're generating that much money, I don't know what you're trying to say there. The football team is generating that money. Carlton Landry says the other sports make no money. Travel expenses are high. That's what I'm told. $50 million worth? $50 million worth? Then with all due respect, I know Title IX is a thing. Not trying to be uber political here. But I got to be real with you. And I hate saying this. Cut men's tennis. Cut all these other sports you don't need that is a money sucker that you don't need. I know that you want to compete in these areas. That's fine if you want to do it. I don't care if you do it. But all I'm saying is there's a certain entity that brings you money. It's not women's tennis. I guarantee you right now, none of you can name one of the players on LSU's women's tennis. Probably couldn't do it for LSU women's swimming. Hell, a lot of you couldn't do it for LSU track team. You would use the football players. Danny, pick one. She says, well, now, Blake, you got to come after tennis, cut soccer. Cut soccer. I don't care. Cut one. But, we live in a society where we got to talk about this, and it's a hot button topic in sports. And that hot button topic in sports is like, you want to talk about common sense. There's your common sense. I am not saying cut Title IX, but you're going to have to make amendments to it. You must, for the sanctity of sport. I saw they got a new, did y'all see this? They got a new LSU hockey team. Did y'all see that? Now, we have a hockey team now. Now that, we got hockey here, we got a hockey team now. Hockey. In the South. In Louisiana. Hockey. Now, those jerseys are badass. Donald says, shut up. Donald, I will not. And you can leave. Nobody's making you stay here. You can bring your happy ass on wherever you want to, but you ain't got to stay here. Chris Foster says it's club hockey. I don't care what it is. Crowdfunded teams is the most terrifying things for Bama, Georgia, and Clemson. Crowdfunded teams. What do you mean by that, Chris? Danny Girl says, apparently the Hawker team is a club system, though. I said the same thing. I don't care. I know what y'all mean. You know what I'm saying, too. All right. Who does everybody have winning the Super Bowl? Put it inside the chat right now before we get out of here. LSU Lady Tigers are tipping it off now, so we'll go to that. But put in the chat, who does everybody think is going to win the Super Bowl? Troy Roberts says, what is your thoughts on the SEC Championship with the playoff changing next year? Teams want to win championships. I'm thinking, what is the point since the top two teams will surely be in? Yeah. I mean, I want to win it. I want to be the SEC champ in football. I want to be the SEC champ. Kenny says, my homeboy. TK Stanley says, San Fran. I hope San Fran wins it. Kevin says, Kansas City. Look, I'm going to go ahead and go with, it's dumb by me. So here's who I'm going to pick for the Super Bowl. Should not be betting against Patrick Mahomes. Shouldn't do it. Because we're going to look like up and see and look, and he's going to be like Brady. Why are you picking against him? But I got to admit, I'm pulling for San Fran. I just want to see somebody else win for a change. I like Kyle Shanahan a lot. He's been there, now technically, even when he was an OC. He's been there a couple of times, hadn't won one. Just want him to win one. I'm going to take San Fran. Think ultimately their defense is a little bit better. So my homeboy's going to lose one. But even though I have zero faith in that. Zero faith. All right, Lady Tigers tipping off. Let's go watch and play. Until next time, we'll see y'all soon. Peace.